Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in and watching. This is a continuation of my project for GPE340, the root motion character controller. And this here is our character that we had downloaded from Mixamo. And we have some enemy objects here, some new UI things that we'll be going over right here. Wrong button. Some new UI elements that we'll be going over right here. Health, stamina, mana, um, attack, or interaction UI, as well as an inventory system, weapons, and all of that. So, um, let's get into it. I'll kind of show you everything that we have going on, and then I'll show some of the scripting. So you start with your player. Immediately to your right, we have a little health power up. As you can see, our health starts off at 100, and we have just basic standalone enemies right now. Player moves, walks around, and then you have two weapons to choose from. You have a rapier and a katana. As you can see, here's our inventory. Press tab to open that up. And so what we'll be doing is we will be showcasing some of the item pickup, weapon usage, and power-ups, things like that nature. So I will take the katana, and to do that I just right-clicked, and as you can see it adds in my inventory. And I apologize, that was the rapier that I took. And then if I take the katana, maybe, hello? There we go. Katana now adds in the inventory. I can exit out and you can say I remove the debug, but it removes it from the inventory. And then I can equip the rapier in my hand, which I'm not sure why the transform's all weird. Interesting. Let me restart real quick and pick it up again and try to equip it, see if that fixes it. There we go. So I need to work on the placement, but it still equips to the hand, and you can walk around with it, etc. So yeah, so if I walk up to an enemy and attack it, enemy dies. There we go. So still not very smooth. I still need to work on creating enemy health and weapon damage, stuff like that. As of right now, it's just on a trigger. When the trigger or the collider of the weapon enters into the enemy collider, it destroys the enemy. But that's all going to be fixed in further editions of the project. As you can see here, health is 100. Right now I have it bound to the X key. I can lose health as the slider goes down, and health updates at the same time. Pick up the max health and it restores my health back to 140. Hit X and you can see down here in the debug.log bottom left, nope, and I died and I'm at 0, and my slider does not go negative. I have some action buttons right here for attacks, and again the inventory menu right there. And then if I were to pick up the katana, it would be in my inventory. So yeah, so again, no, it's not fantastic, but we're going through, show off some of the scripts that made it all happen. So we'll start with a simple rotate. This is for the power up, just super simple. It's just we're rotating it from a speed. Power up pickup. Here we have a particle effect that when you pick up the power up, it kind of explodes into a little blue cloud. The effect multiplier. So right now, player health is being multiplied by 1.4, but there's a range, so somebody can change it. You have the pickup collider. That if the player comes in contact with a power up that has the collider, it will do this. And here's just the health increase, and then you can add more power ups to do other things as we get further down there. The power up manager, as of right now, this is just managing the power ups, and this is just instantiating the power up into the world. Weapon damage. This is just to show that the weapon is colliding with an enemy, and it has a debug.log showing that. We're going to upgrade and change some things up in the future. Item pickup. This is just for to show that we're picking up a item, and the item picked up is all based off of an item, which is a scriptable object, which I can kind of go through and show that in a little bit. If it was picked up, destroy the game object in the world, and so that way it'll basically be loaded into the inventory. This is the item. This is the scriptable object. Has an item name, has a sprite for an icon, a way to see if it's a default item for the player if they start with it. This is the item prefab, so you can load in whatever type of weapon it is or armor. It has that game object there. And then this is a virtual void that will call in another script, but basically we are using plus the item name, and then we're removing it from the inventory. Interactable, this is something that goes on all objects that you can interact with. It has a float radius of how close you need to be to interact with it, as well as if the player is focusing it or allowed to interact with it. The equipment manager, this is to manage all the equipment that the player can pick up and equip. As of right now, it's just the 2 weapons, but eventually it'll be armor and other weapons and stuff like that. Basically, it stores them into different variables of like a slot index and an array, so that way we can kind of go through and see what the current equipment is, how many pieces of equipment that you have, all of that stuff. This is the actual equipment here, and it's deriving from item. And within that, we have different options in the editor for just ease of access. But we have the enum of equipment slot. We have head, chest, legs, one-hand weapon, two-handed weapon, shield, feet, some of the basic items that you would equip on the player. And here we have a virtual override void of what was in the original item script, basically that we are utilizing the equipment manager to equip this item, and then we're removing it from the inventory. The inventory UI, this is part of the inventory system that you saw a minute ago. Basically, this is the management of the UI, toggling it on and off, and cycling through the inventory to ensure that you don't go over a certain amount of you don't go over the amount of intended space, which can be changed in the editor. Inventory slot, this is what's managing the actual slots and the buttons. It takes in the icon of the scriptable object that is picked up. So as you saw, the 2 weapons or 2 different icons. It takes in and it reads what kind of item it is. And then there's a remove button, the little red X. This is adding a new item to the inventory, and it's enabling the icons and the sprites and everything to be true. Clearing the slot. Basically, if you were to equip the item or exit it or delete it from the inventory, it is freeing up that spot. And then remove button, this is the button to remove it from the inventory, and this is if you actually click on the item to equip it or use its item.use. It's pulling from that function. Here's the inventory script right here. We have a singleton right here. This is just calling a debug, basically just making sure that we are not calling more than one instance of the inventory. It'll take in a list of items, and we set the inventory space to 20, which can be changed in the editor. Basically, this is just kind of going through to know if we have any items in the inventory. If we have more than 20 and we try to pick up another item, it will throw us a error and it will return false, so we can't pick up that item. If we have space, then we're going to add it. And then this is to call an update to the UI to make sure that when we pick something up or remove it, it's actually being updated. And then this is removing item, same thing. It's updating to the UI if we remove an item from the inventory. And enemy script, as of right now, as I mentioned earlier, it is just a simple trigger event that if it comes in contact with a weapon, it'll destroy that game object. But we're going to give the enemy some health and some other pieces of um, like variables to ensure that the enemy's actually an enemy, not just a standalone object. So yeah, so those are kind of all the scripts that made everything happen. Here's the player UI. We have the health bar, we have the stamina bar, and the mana bar. We have the actions panel, which is down here in the bottom, and then the inventory panel with all the inventory slots, and the inventory title, which is just the title. It says inventory when you open it. And then we have the game manager, which is kind of managing the inventory, the equipment, and then the power-ups. Basically, you can change the inventory, um, change the amount of items you have in the inventory, and as you pick items up, you can see it updates and shows what the equipment is that you have in your inventory. And then if you exit out, it shows and updates one. Now you only have that one item in there. And so there's kind of how that works a little bit. The scriptable objects I have are right here. So you can see it has the item name, the icon if it's a default item the player starts with, the item prefab and the weapon prefab. This is for the equipment manager, this is for the inventory or inventory equipment. And then the modifiers for the damage, again, doesn't really do anything now, but it will in the future. But other than that, that's really all I have for this assignment. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you.